Greetings, pet lovers. Bridget here with First Street Pets, and today we're going to talk about 5 steps that you need to take when your microchipped pet goes missing. When your pet goes missing, you need to take action right away. Don't wait. In this video, you will learn how to determine what your pet's chip number is, if it is registered, how to update the registration, and report your pet missing. Millions of pets go missing every year in the United States and all over the world. A microchip ID greatly increases their chances of being reunited with their families, but it's not a fail-safe system. So here is some information on what to do when your microchip pet goes missing. Number 1, find the chip number. If you have any paperwork from the acquisition of your pet, maybe you got them from a shelter, a rescue, or you purchased them from a breeder, the microchip number should be on that paperwork. If you can't find the paperwork or it was 5 years ago, call the breeder, call the shelter, call the rescue, get in touch with them to see if they have maintained records and can give you that number. Chances are you're watching this video because your pet is already missing. If they are not missing, or if your other pets are safely at home, now is the time to determine their chip numbers and make sure they are registered. I will link my article about microchip scanners. They can actually be purchased very inexpensively online for about less than $30. But if you don't want to go that route, any shelter or vet or sometimes rescue angels in your community can scan your pets for you and give you the number. It's very important to find out what the actual chip number is and compare it to the paperwork. For example, my cat, Mr. Cutie, was registered with the wrong number for years until I purchased scanners for my videos, scanned him, and found out the number was just 1 digit off, which would have registered it useless had he ever actually become lost. Number 2. Check registration. Now, some people don't understand how this works. In fact, most pet owners don't understand how it works. That's why I'm making these videos, to help you. The chip is just, all that's on it is a barcode, which is basically a number. It's like when you buy something at the grocery store and they scan it, that's all it is. It's just a code number. It means nothing. Your personal information is not in the chip. It's not a GPS. It's just a number. You have to register that number. It's kind of like the license plate on your car. It's just a number, but it's registered to you. It's the same with the microchip. When I recorded the first version of this video in 2020, there were about a dozen or so active chip registries in the United States. Now there are so many more in 2025. Oh my God. There are more than 40 on this list alone from American Animal Hospital Association. Many people I talk to assume that if their pet is chipped, it is registered. Please do not assume that. When I was working in shelters, this is not an exact figure, but I found that roughly 50% of pets coming in with chips were not currently registered. They had a chip, but either it wasn't registered, it was registered to a previous owner, or maybe registered to the current owner, but not with their current addresses and phone numbers. So very important for you to take responsibility for registering that chip. Don't assume the veterinarian did it. They usually don't. Don't assume the shelter did it or the rescue. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. So again, that's your responsibility. Don't assume that it's registered. Check and see for yourself. Once you have the chip number for your pet, go to petmicrochiplookup.org. This is a great tool that's been around for years. It is totally free. Type in the number, click search, and this tool will tell you if the chip is registered, with which registry, and on what date. Number 3, update the registration. Now, Pet Microchip Lookup and the individual registries, for that matter, will not show personal information online for your privacy and security. It just gives you either a website or a phone number to call so you can verify your identity and get that information for yourself. Conversely, if someone has found your pet at a shelter or rescue or whatever, when they call the chip company, they're not given your personal information, but their information is taken so they can be connected with you to get your pet back. So when you look up the number on Pet Microchip Lookup, you may see that it isn't registered. Okay, register it right away. Don't give up because your pet's already missing. Your pet may be found at any time and that chip will be scanned. You see the articles in the news all the time about animals found 5 and 10 years later and reunited with their families because they kept that chip currently registered. Now, you do not have to register the chip with its manufacturer. Say it's a Home Again chip or an AKC chip or whatever. It's just a chip. It's just an object. You can register it with any registry you want, and I will link my other article about which pet microchip registry is best in the description. Number 4, report your pet missing. So while you're talking to the folks at the microchip registry, whether online or on the phone, you can report your pet missing with them. You should be able to do this for free. Now, many of these companies offer paid services. It's up to you whether you want to do that. Every registry, at least as far as I know, has some kind of a free option. So if you can't afford it or you just don't want to spend money on something like that, you generally don't have to. Every registry handles this differently. Some send out flyers to local veterinarians and shelters. Some have email groups, like I'm on the Home Again Pet Rescuers email group, so they'll send me an email when there's a pet lost in my area. Some will give you actual missing pet counseling over the phone, generate flyers for you. There's a lot of services out there, and it can be really confusing when you're upset and missing your pet. But basically, the most important thing is to report your pet missing and then decide if you need any of those services and if you actually need to pay for any of that. When reporting your pet missing to the chip company or to anyone else, be sure to give them a good phone number where you can be reached 24 hours a day. Now, in today's world, everybody has a smartphone, even your grandmother has one, so you should have a number where you can be reached at all times. But if you're going to be busy working or some place where you cannot answer the phone, make sure to give an alternate contact, such as a friend, relative, neighbor, somebody who can be reached during the hours when you may not be able to pick up the phone. Number 5, report your pet missing to the shelters. So this is a whole other topic. I'm not going to go into detail in this video. This will be the subject of other videos, the shelter jurisdiction system. But it is important to at least call the shelters and report your pet missing. Much better to actually go down there. Now, the system is confusing, as I mentioned, so if you don't know where to start, the best place is to go to your local authority. So it could be the police department, the sheriff's department. If you happen to know who does animal control in your area, start talking to them. Or if there's a humane society or rescue group you're familiar with, ask them. Every city and county has some system for picking up and housing stray animals. You just need to find out what that is. When you make your report, you want to make sure to give them your home address and also the location where the pet was lost, because you could have been at the vet hospital, you could have been at the dog park, and that may actually be a different jurisdiction. For example, you may be in the city and where you were might be in the unincorporated, and that could be a different shelter. When your pet is chipped, be sure to tell the shelter that your pet is chipped. You don't necessarily need to give them the number unless they ask for it. Standard procedure when pets come into a shelter is to scan for a chip and to run a registration check. But it's not a foolproof system. So super important, if your pet is chipped, don't sit at home waiting for a call. I've seen too many times where the scanner either didn't pick up the chip, maybe the battery was low, or the person scanning didn't exactly do it right. I've seen with my own eyes people scan an animal apparently correctly, nothing comes up, they scan it again later, the chip comes up. So it's not a 100% system. So it does work like 90% of the time, but for those times when it doesn't work, you need to be going to the shelter and calling and checking their website and seeing what stray animals are being brought in. When making signs or flyers, you can mention that your pet is chipped, but it is not necessary to include the number. In fact, I don't recommend it, because if anyone has that number, they can change the registry to their own name. They can do all sorts of stuff with it. So don't put the actual number on any of these materials. Just note that the pet is chipped. If you follow these steps along with other effective search techniques and act quickly, you are much more likely to recover your lost pet. Be sure to check out my other content on other search techniques, such as making posters, flyers, and mailers, using social media to find your lost pet. Thank you for watching.